Welcome everyone to the Green Effect podcast. This is episode number 17, part 1 of 2. We've got the president, Brian Santos. Brian is the president of the Kitchener-Waterloo Association of Realtors. He's also a realtor with Peak Realty here in Kitchener. But again, we've got the Prez, our first president we've ever had on the show. So in our first part here with Brian, we're going to talk about his presidential duties. And then, of course, how we started in real estate, all a family business for Brian. How does he balance work life and running a major association? How does he feel about the current market with all these multiple offers and prices are increasing due to inventory? What's his take on that? The LRT. We've got the nicest tracks, but does he know something we don't about when the trains are actually going to start to run? We're going to get his insight on this. This episode's got something for everyone who wants to know the inside scoop, we'll say, on the Waterloo Region. Without further ado, here we go with Brian.
Welcome to the Green Effect podcast. Finance, life, business, and everything in between. And now, your host, Stephen Green.
Welcome everybody to the Green Effect podcast. Today we've got Brian Santos. Brian has two big jobs. Not only is he a realtor with Peak Realty here in Kitchener, but he's also the president of the Kitchener-Waterloo Association of Realtors. Welcome, Brian.
Thanks for having me, Stephen. I appreciate it.
So a pretty big thing. We've never had a president on before.
Ooh.
So you're like the first, you're like the Prez. You are the guy. You're the president. So yeah, definitely a first. We've had lawyers and accountants and everyone else, but we've never had a president. So first question we always ask everybody, and I'll let you give your side, and then I'll give my side. How did we meet?
Actually, not too long ago. It was probably a couple of weeks at the association office. I was kind of there in a conference room, kind of tending to my phone, and walked by, and that's how we connected. Yeah. So
more so than that, to be honest, I was actually on the way to the bathroom. And I saw you sitting there alone on your phone, probably typing away on email, and I thought, oh, I know that guy, and I need a guest for my next podcast. So there you go, right? Everything's timing.
Worked out well.
It did. Best bathroom visit I've ever had. Okay, so walk me through your career a little bit. How did you... It's funny, every time we talk to a real estate agent, there's always a story about how they ended up in real estate. They never went to school to be a real estate agent. How did you end up in real estate?
Yeah, it's a funny story. It never was really plan A for me to become a realtor. I'm a second generation realtor. Both my parents are in real estate. That's kind of fell into it. This year my dad will be celebrating 45 years in the business. He's started in 1974. So both mom and dad are in the business. I was at university in time. I was in third year, and the summer jobs wasn't too thrilled about. And my dad said, "Hey, why don't you get your real estate license? Just to help out, and why not just take it?" So while I was in university, I started taking the courses through correspondence. And shortly thereafter, graduating university, I completed my real estate license. And at first, like I said, it was kind of more of a plan B. But the more I did it, the more I enjoyed it, and I really love it. It's a very fulfilling career. Sometimes as cheesy as it sounds, it's absolutely wonderful to help people, both buyers and sellers. You get that that big thank you, that big hug, and all that emotion. It fuels that fire. Like I know this weekend I had a final walkthrough, and I went there just to say hi, pop in, give them a gift. And they had a gift for me. And I'm like, this is wild.
That's what you want from your clients.
I was over the moon happy. Like I was just, it absolutely, it made my day, made my week, made my month. I was so thrilled. And those types of moments, is why I love real estate. Yeah. It's just the ability to help people though.
Hey, that's great if they're giving you gifts. So if my clients are listening, just saying gifts are the way to go. That is definitely good. You talk about trying to help people. I think more and more people can genuinely tell if you really do care or not. And I think they can, they know the salesperson, but then they also know the people that are actually there to build the relationship. Mm-hmm. So that sort of thing is very, very important these days. That's for sure. Especially with social media. There's so much feelingless media out there, right? So when you actually have someone who kind of cares what's going on, that's really critical. So. Okay, so some specific questions for you. There's probably a lot of things you can be doing with your time. why did you decide to be the president of the Kitchener-Waterloo Association of Realtors?
Again, it's probably something else I just kind of fell into, though. I've always really enjoyed being involved in anything I do, whether it be in high school, being part of like student councils, or at university, different types of social clubs and that type of thing. And when I got into real estate, I started getting involved at the task force and committee level. And then from there, I just kind of like worked my way up with more and more involvement to become a director. From the director, then became second VP, and now this year president. So all kind of just snowballs from there. So I've been really involved with our local association. I've sat on a number of different committees, and I really enjoyed that experience. The industry's been so good to me, so I just wanted an opportunity to give back. And I've also been really doing quite a bit of work, though, too, with our provincial association, so RIA. So I've sat on 5 different committees there. It's good to give back, but once you do give back, you get so much back in return. I've learned so much, and it's been so good for personal and professional development. I've met some wonderful friends, learned a lot of things, and hey, even meeting you, Stephen, was just through that involvement, because I wouldn't have been at the board office if it wasn't for that role, and met you there. So it's just wonderful how life kind of works that way.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, if you want to meet some people, hang around the entrance to the bathroom, boy. Let me tell you, that's the way to do it. Yeah, and you mentioned a lot some of the committees that you're on and stuff like that. So, I mean, what are some of the topics of some of these committees that you're on?
Well, they range. I know, my involvement at the provincial association, I just wanted to become a better professional, better realtor. So I first got started there as on a YPN, so it's pretty popular, Young Professional Networks.
Okay. Yeah.
So the average age of a realtor, it's over 50. Me being a younger realtor, I just wanted to talk to some people that were kind of like-minded, a bit forward-thinking, a little bit different, because like I mentioned, my dad before, he's in real estate. He saw a lot of success, but what works for him doesn't necessarily work for me.
Different generation.
Absolutely, right? So it's kind of tough, though. So I can't criticize what he does because it works really well for him, but not necessarily work for me. So YPN was just an opportunity then to meet other people with similar mindsets from across the province, and I really enjoyed that. I've sat on standard forums before, which is kind of like if we were carpenters, realtors, I guess our standard forms would be our hammer, if you will. So it's the standard forms used for agreement of purchase and sales, for the offers that buyers and sellers use and then pass off to you as the mortgage broker. So I had a lot of questions and suggestions about the form. So then I sat on that committee, and I really, really enjoyed it. Had some good input there. I sat on governance before, though, too. This year, I was really keen on the shift of our provincial association as it lost education component, and now they're focusing a lot more on governance and being a bit more of a lobby group. So I sat on their marketing committee because I wanted to see how they were going to pivot and change that way. So I sat on that committee, and it was super rewarding, and I learned a lot.
There's probably, there's no shortage of material that you need to lobby for. There's so many different changes going on. Government, let's face it, the government's kind of been the one that's been the one forcing a lot of this stuff, right? So you must be very busy with just trying to make change and make good change, right?
Absolutely. Basically, us realtors, we want to be, the voice for people, though, too. And real estate is a goal for many. And one of the things that they've been lobbying about has been in the news recently, and that's REBA reform. So, REBA reform relates to the legislation that governs us realtors, how we practice in the province of Ontario. And that legislation, it's REBA 2002. So 2002 was a long time ago. We didn't have e-signatures, email, or anything like that. We're still operating by fax.
What a simple time.
Absolutely.
If I could go back to that. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, in some ways. So that's something that the provincial association, even our local one, though, too, has been lobbying the government in order to, refresh, because it needs some change. So that's been in the news recently, though, too. People have been talking a lot about that, though. Open bidding's got a lot of attention. That's something they're going to look into, because right now we're not able to do that. It's a bit more restricted. So
yeah. So when you sit around the table at night, or when you're hanging out with your parents, how does the conversation go with how much things have changed from, let's call it, quote, back in the day to now.
Yeah, it really has changed. And on that note, like both my parents are realtors, but then working in the industry, I also met my wife in the business, and she's also a realtor.
Oh, wow.
So there's four of us. So it's real estate seemingly all the time. Those can't really get away from it.
Oh, jeez. Those must be some very riveting conversations around the table and on a Saturday night or whatever.
Absolutely. There's always something to talk about, that's for sure, though. Yeah. But it's wild how much the industry has changed. Like for me, this is now my 11th year in the business, and I'm blown away by how much change we've seen. Even like last night, I was working on a deal, and my seller's in Brantford. A few years back, I'd be driving to Brantford, we'd be meeting in Cambridge, we'd be coming in Kitchener, and we did everything just over the phone and then via e-signature platform. So it was absolutely wonderful that way. So sometimes, as much as technology can be a bit difficult sometimes, and kind of we lose control of our schedule and our lives, for that convenience, it's been absolutely amazing. I even know what I do without it now.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, the art form of presenting an offer in person.
Sure.
Like it sometimes I think it happens, but it doesn't happen often anymore, does it?
Yeah, it's funny. If I'm the buying agent, I try to do so every time I can. Mm-hmm. But if I'm a selling agent, I don't want people to present in person. It's kind of funny. I'm like,
double standard.
Yeah, double standard, you know?
Yeah, well, then you got to deal with, and listen, the way things are now, I'm pretty sure that if you're the listing agent or the selling agent, I mean, you probably got every sort of story coming at you and you know, sales pitch and whatever. And if you got two or three of them,
it can be difficult, especially when you have, like you say, like multiple offers on a property. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I say when you have presentations like that, sometimes you lose a little bit of control. And if you're just there with your sellers, you have a bit more focus, though, too, where you have sometimes a different party. You know, sometimes things go off track a little bit, though, too.
Yeah, so. True. Very true. So how do you balance? I mean, you know, you said before this you were at an AGM or something like that, right? For the Association of Realtors. How do you balance, you know, still selling homes, making money, and then having to, you know, be the president?
Yeah, so I wear a few different hats, though, too, beyond that, though. So I'm the president of our association this year. I sell real estate, though, too. I'm also the broker manager for our office, and we have a pretty big one. We're over 150 agents in Waterloo Region. And then I hold a couple other roles outside of that, though, too. I'm quite involved through the City of Kitchener, though, too. I'm a co-chair of Property Standards Appeal Board. I really enjoy that experience, though, too. I also do dabble, before getting real estate, I love sports, like you, Stephen. Yeah. And I still dabble a little bit in some sports from time to time. So I do some work for TFC, the soccer team.
Yep.
So I don't know, but when you're passionate about something and it doesn't feel like work, you find a way and you make it happen, though. Like even some people ask, like, I get that question all the time, you know, oh, aren't you so busy being president? How do you find the time? And it's never an issue.
Yeah.
I'm super passionate about it. I love it, and it doesn't feel like work. And we have such a wonderful team at the association office, and the team I work with in real estate. We just figure it out, and it works. Like every day I wake up and I'm super excited to get to work. It doesn't feel like work, and I love it.
As long as you love it, that's really what it comes down to, you know. Because I think when it becomes work, now all of a sudden all the other stresses come out, right? It's just not fun anymore. It's got to be fun. You got to enjoy it. Do you ever get your roles confused? So, for example, you know, you're sitting with a client, you're going over an offer, and you say, whoa, listen, this is the president talking. Right? Do you ever go that route?
Oh, no, not at all, though. I think just
you would like to sometimes, though.
No, I think what really helps with just wearing like my president's hat is that I'm really well aware of what the rules are, of what we can and can't do, and sometimes why the rules that are there in place, though, too. Sometimes I get some questions or some pushback, maybe from a colleague. As you're like, hey, this is why we're doing it, and this is the reason, because I've been involved in the process of why we got to that decision.
Yeah.
And I find that so helpful.
Try it next time. Hey, look, we're not having this conversation. I'm the president. Come on. I try to do that at my house, and my wife just shoots it down right away. It's, but yeah, don't try it at home. Just saying.
I feel like the whole title got a little bit less shine from after Trump and everything, president, it kind of took some shine off of it a little bit, though. So
yeah, you have to change what the name of that role is going.
Presidente. I don't know if it's a little bit better. I'm not sure. Who knows?
That's right. So I want to dig into some of the issues that, a combination of the region and I think the country is dealing with. But, Obviously I do mortgages, so I see young first-time home buyers trying to get into the market. I see people trying to upsize as their families are getting bigger and then downsize. And everybody has to deal with these multiple offers. And, I almost have a recording where when they call, I sit with them, I go through their pre-approval or whatever, and I say, you can't go firm on your offer. This is the reason why. And we have to give that answer.
Sure.
And then without fail, they're at the kitchen table with their real estate agent, and the realtor's like, you got to go firm. And I get the phone call, can I go firm? And I'm like, no, because I'm just not allowed to say it, right?
Yeah.
What is there any legislation out there? Is there any lobby groups? Is anybody in front of this to stop it or deal with it or manage it?
Sure. Well, everyone's looking to make this. We're always looking for improvement right now. And the issue with our market right now is there's not enough supply.
Yeah.
There's too few homes and there's lots of demand. And I'm not an economics major, but when you have, lots of demand and low supply, then you have lots of competition and prices going up. And for instance, if you have a real popular house and it's on the market and you have 5 offers, you're going to have one person's very happy and they won the bid. And there's going to be 4 people that are really upset because they lost. And even on the other side of things, like I bought a house already through multiple offers. And every time, I lost on a couple with multiple offers, I was really upset. I'm like, I should have paid more. And when I won and to purchase my house and on multiple offers and I was the winning bid, my first reaction right away was like, oh my goodness, I paid too much.
That's right.
So when you have multiple offers, no one's really that happy. And I think that's what led us down this road and where the government's kind of like, step in and look to improve things though too, because a lot of people are upset right now because there's a little bit of lack of transparency and lack of choice. And that's what we're experiencing right now though.
Do you think we'll see a day where no more firm offers? Like just everyone's on the same playing field, 5 days on financing, 5 days on inspection. Do you think we'll see that day?
Who knows? I think beautiful thing about a market, there's always ebbs and flows and things are changing all the time. When I first got into business, I might see 1 or 2 firm offers all year. Now it seems like it's the norm because people want to be competitive. Just because there's not much choice out there and they want to make sure that they stand out in comparison to another offer though. But it is scary. I really feel for people going in with no financing condition. It seems like what a risk that is, or no inspection. Like, it's not like we're buying a shirt and you can take it back to the store if you keep the receipt. Like once you go, you go. So my heart goes out to these people that are taking this much risk.
Yeah, and I mean, you wouldn't buy a used car for $25,000 for without a proper safety or inspection. Yet we have clients buying $800,000. Like you're spending almost $1 million on something you don't know if there's an issue with it, right? And that's so tough. You said first-time home buyers. Oh my gosh, like they have just enough for their 5%.
Yeah.
And there's no hope if that house is not worth what it's worth. They lose their deposit. They're going to get sued, and it becomes very unpleasant, right?
Sure.
So, it's tough. And you're right, supply and demand.
Yeah, they're in a tough spot right now. I really feel for them. Like we just released our stats for the month of February yesterday. And average price of a single detached home in Kitchener Waterloo right now, we're just under $600,000.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that came out like that.
That's big bucks. But because of it, what's really interesting though is the condo market, the apartment style condo market, is surging, and it's all about affordability. So we saw a 20% increase, just over 20% year over year on the condo segment of the market. And I think it just comes down to like that dream of buying a home is still alive, but you can't go to the house. You can go to the condo route, and again goes to your industry. Our industries work together that way. That stress test for buyers as well. Mm-hmm. Even further complicates things for them.
Yeah, it does, and you're right. We got people just jumping into a condo just to get in, just start building some equity, and then you can upgrade later.
Sure.
Right? And then we've also got now investors in particular. They're out there buying brand new construction, right? Just so they don't have to fight with all these multiples. They want to know what they're buying. So, is it a little more expensive with the HST? Yeah, maybe.
Sure.
Right? Or an initial outset and you get the money back. But we got now people jumping on that train. Right?
And used really tough as well. Like I know I can speak from firsthand experience. I've purchase new construction before, you're buying a promise.
Yeah, good point.
And you hope the developer or the builder delivers on that promise, but sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And then you're stuck.
Yeah. And you're stuck with them having your money because they hold the deposit, right? So, yeah, it's a tricky one, that's for sure. So, what do you think about the rising house prices right now in the region? I mean, you're saying average is 600,000.
Yeah.
Are the houses actually, and this one can go a few different directions, but are the houses actually worth 600,000? Do we have inflated prices? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, like ultimately, like things are worth what people are willing to pay, and it's interesting. It's all about perspective. It just reminds me of a story. I was at a real estate conference in the fall, and we're at a table, and there's a gentleman there from Atlanta, Georgia, and he was asking us about average home prices. Similar conversation, and he asked me, guy from Kitchener-Waterloo, never heard of it before. What average price is? And I told him at that time we were mid fives, and he's like, oh my goodness, wow. And then there was another gentleman at our table from Oakville, and he's like, what's your average price? And he said, over $1 million. We're 1.1. And he's like, holy moly, like how far apart are you guys? I'm like, I don't know, less than an hour, no traffic. And he just couldn't comprehend that, though. So for me, it feels like a lot of money here. I was born and raised in Kitchener-Waterloo. I started this business in 2008. If someone came to me before with $600,000, I'm like, all right, Deer Ridge, Hidden Valley, Kiwanis, where we're going, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now you're just getting into the market, and it seems like a lot of money here. But perspective-wise, in Toronto, $600,000, you're still only buying a one-bedroom condo.
Hopefully a one-bedroom. Otherwise,
Yeah.
It's one of those 350 square foot shoe boxes. But
Absolutely. And then if you go further west of us, it's different. It's all about perspective. Ultimately, though, I think Kitchener-Waterloo remains a really, really good place to live, and it's a community that has a lot to offer. And I think that word is really important, though, too, a sense of community, because there's some other places along the 401 I think they don't offer that like we do. We have some wonderful universities, 2 of them, a great college, 2 great hospitals, lots of jobs and work here. Like a lot of people work, live, and play here, whereas maybe there's some other places, I don't get thrown anyone under the bus, but like a Milton, where a lot of people, it's a very transient community where people are living there, but they're working elsewhere. Mm-hmm. So you miss that sense of, belonging and community, which I think is so important.
Client at the grocery store, for example, like everyone's still here, right?
Yeah,
So.
yeah. And I think that part's so important. That's why people really like Kitchener-Waterloo. And again, like just speaking anecdotally, though, too, just working with some clients, we have some right now, they're planning on moving to Kitchener-Waterloo. They still work in Toronto, but the requirement to be in Toronto is a lot less. Like they can work from home, 4 of the 5 days, and 1 day a week where they head into the office and have a couple meetings. And I know it's not great, but at least now there's GoTrain.
Yeah,
it's not amazing, but at least it's there, and they're willing to do that over having a home for $600 versus the one-bedroom condo shoebox we're talking about.
Yeah, and they can make the Toronto money, but then have the the bedroom community type. Experience, we'll say, and the expense and be able to afford it.
Sure.
As opposed to, I mean, good God, I could never afford to move back to, I'm originally from Toronto. I could never move back to Toronto. Can't afford it. There's no way, right?
Yeah, it's wild.
And you're used to what you have, and then you go to see what you can get, and it just wouldn't jive, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I think with us, I mean, with the GO train, and now they're always talking about, do we add an extra trip?
There was talk about that in the paper, right?
Yeah.
More to come.
Yeah, just recent. So hopefully that happens. On the flip side, though, I was talking to my wife about this because obviously my family's still in Toronto, so I go back and forth. But it's also very expensive. Like, it's not cheap.
The GO train?
Yeah, the GO train.
Yeah.
So, there's... But then, again, what would you rather have? A $600,000 single detached home you can afford and just pay the money, or just live way above your means in Toronto? And some people are going to take that. They're going to take staying in KW or whatever and take the GO train back and forth. It's still cheaper, right? Mm-hmm. So it's people are more wanting that sort of environment. I know that's why I'm here. Other than meeting a Kitchener girl, that's a whole other
that's another
podcast. Yeah. So okay, I'm sure you get this question like 1,000 times a day. We have the nicest LRT tracks I've ever seen. We have the nicest shelters. And the sample trains look amazing. So What are you hearing? Are we going to get this thing anytime soon? What's the latest?
Yeah, I'm absolutely excited for the LRT. I think it was a wonderful decision by our region to add it. I think it'll be great. Like the train, and for real estate, it's been amazing. Like the trains aren't even running. We just have only the track. And last I heard, I was at a meeting at the city of Kitchener, and they were saying that upwards of $3 billion worth of spending has happened as a direct result of the LRT.
Of just having that.
Yeah, just like all the construction even around the LRT line though too, and further densification has resulted from that though. So just people on the idea alone, it's had such a positive effect. They're not even running yet, and literally billions of dollars have been spent. It's been absolutely wonderful. I think it's really forward thinking though. I just remember reading all the stories though too when Kitchener Waterloo decided to put the expressway in, and so many people thought that was a foolish idea. And where would our cities be without the expressway?
Oh, geez.
Just compare us to London, for instance, that's pretty big city, and they miss that expressway and how difficult it is to get around there in comparison to here.
It's very true.
So, and you kind of got to like plant the seeds now for tomorrow. I think the LRT will be great that way, and getting rid of cars. Like I can't stand always being in my vehicle, and talking about expenses. Like after my house, my car is my next biggest expense, and at least my house is going up in value, but my my car it's a depreciating asset. Like every day, it's worth less and less. So if you can get down to one car or fewer cars in the household, that much more money you save, and better for the environment and everything else.
Yeah, it's very, very true. It's funny. It's an idea I think that it has to grow on people, because we're so focused on just having our cars, and everything in KW is 10-15 minutes away from it, right?
Yeah.
You don't it's not something that they're used to. So I'm from Toronto. It's rare to have a car in Toronto if you are younger, university,
sure,
and starting
absolutely.
out, because you have a bus every 2 minutes, you have the subway, whatever. But you're right on the values. There's a huge benefit there.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast. It was actually probably a little while ago though too, and it was with the CEO of Lyft. It's like a rideshare app, similar competitor to Uber. And I was so inspired by his conversation, talking about how we don't use our cars enough. I guess like 40% of all miles in North America, they don't even get used. There was one person in the car at the time, and how like you saw the future of cars is just like bigger vehicles, not smaller ones, and we share more of them. We're gonna have a little office and work away. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna have less and less cars. I was like, yeah, this is awesome. But I'm listening to it while I'm driving my pickup truck to show a house in New Hamburg, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not there. But
Yeah.
I was so inspired by his words of less and less, like less vehicles, less is more, and we're far away from that.
Yeah, we are, and it will grow, I think. Listen, I was in a room of 800 investors, and they were talking. This was going back probably maybe 2.5 years, and the topic was where to invest in Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very clear, KW right at the top, not for no other reason that it's not a promised LRT. It's not something they're thinking about. They've broken ground. There's rails in the ground. It's actually going to happen, as opposed to a London, a Hamilton, a Barrie. They're just kind of thinking about it, right? So you're right. That brings in a great deal of just money into the economy, right?
Sure.
And then the housing thing. You're right. Anything around an LRT line,
boom,
is changing. People are buying. Stuff's growing.
Yeah, there's that promise, because we've seen the success in Toronto. Anything close to the subway or the streetcar, it's worth more money. Yeah. And people have gotten behind that idea here in Kitchener and Waterloo. I think they're really forward thinking. I'm always really proud of this city. Like growing up here, it was a lot more blue collar. It was like so many family and friends, worked in, my grandpa, Schneider's, there was the MTDs, the Uniroyals, the Kaufman, the Arrow, and that's all gone. Yet we're still thriving. And we had BlackBerry. When I first got in the business, it was the whole BlackBerry wave. And, they're gone, so to speak. And we're still thriving. So I'm so proud of what we have to offer here in Kitchener-Waterloo that way. So I definitely see a bright future.
Yeah. If you ever want a good laugh and you're talking to your friends in the U.S. and you say, oh, I'm from Kitchener-Waterloo. And And they say, well, where's that? Well, do you remember I always say, it's where the blackberry is made.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
just to see the kind of the blank look, and then they cock their head, and it's never mind, forget it. We're an hour west of Toronto.
An hour west, that's always...
Yeah, because the Americans just don't associate with the blackberry at all. But tell it to a Canadian, they get that part. So. There you have it. Part 1 with Brian Santos, President of the Kitchener-Waterloo Association of Realtors. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to tune in for Part 2. We're going to talk about even more political stuff, the REBA and the RICO reform. What's on the horizon for real estate in general? Builders and the salespeople. We're going to be talking about the builder exemption, auctions, open biddings, mortgage rules, his funniest business story, and his top 5 items facing the Waterloo Region in the future. So don't miss out. Don't forget to also follow me on Facebook and Twitter with my handles RBC Stephen Green for both, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Green Effect Podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Google Play so you catch the next episode. And don't forget to leave a review. Much appreciated.